Okay, so hope everyone is doing well and managing this situation that we're in. Okay, so we have our virtual class tomorrow. What I'm going to be doing, hopefully, as long as everything works smoothly, is I'm going to be doing this video, which will start us off with Hamlet. Okay, I know you've been working on your midterms. Hopefully, you've had a chance to start reading Hamlet. I know it's a busy time though, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow. You can inform me then. We have plenty of time to get through Hamlet. We're going to need a lot of time to get through Hamlet. We have to transition back to Shakespeare now after spending the last few weeks on fences. You have some Hamlet, you have some Shakespeare under your belt, but of course we have to reintroduce ourselves to Shakespearean language, and we are dealing with one of his longest plays in Hamlet, and one of its most, well, in many respects, complex plays. So we are going to go through it as we have done for everything this semester. We're going to go through it in detail. Again, reminder that when it comes to Shakespeare, first and foremost is the need to be able to follow the language and understand how the events are unfolding, to be able to follow the plot, which again, with Shakespeare can be difficult because of the language. All right, and I understand that, and I am going to do everything I can to help you through that. But remember, you, in the edition that you have, right, you have at the bottom of the page the explanatory notes that you will need to look at. I look at them, and I've read this play, I have no idea how many times. Okay, but I still need to look at those notes. And that's just part of the Shakespearean experience, okay, is unpacking, unfolding the language. And once we're able to do that, then that gives us the opportunity to start looking at the layers and the suggested meanings and all those elements that make this such an extraordinarily rich and layered play. Okay, so my plan is this. For this video, I'm anticipating I'm just going to go through the first two scenes of Act 1, and then we can pick up from there tomorrow. We'll review it. I understand many of you may not have a chance to watch this video before tomorrow. That's fine. You'll have a chance to watch it during the week, and this will set the tone for what's to come. And it's important to spend this amount of time, I think, on these first two scenes for two reasons. One is to, again, reacclimatize ourselves to the language, and two, so much of the foundation is laid in these two scenes for what's going to come. Okay, as we have discussed many times, we, at the beginning, in the first act of the play, in the first scenes of the play, we are introduced to the characters, and we are introduced to the main themes of what's going to come. Right? It's a information gathering experience, very purposely done. This is the structure of the play, is to get us ready to plunge into Acts 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so it's a lot of information in the first act. A lot transpires that lays down this foundation that we have to be familiar with if we're to be able to follow what's going to come afterwards, and to be able to delve into those layers of meaning, and to be able to fully explore the themes, and be able to recognize the symbols and all the things that come with the study of literature. Okay, so first let me call up the text. And all right, so as always, the first thing we start with is the title. And in this case, what we have here, it's referred to, it's called on the front cover page, it's Hamlet. But of course, note that once you open it up, you'll see that it's actually, the titles is a bit larger than that. It's The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Okay, so Hamlet, we're going to know who Hamlet is, but now we also know it's a tragedy, and that Hamlet is a prince, and he's a prince of a specific country, Denmark. All right, so that's giving us, more information than just looking at Hamlet, and it's important that we note that. And as we discussed with when we were doing Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare's plays are classified into three categories. There's the histories, the comedies, and the tragedies. Okay, so we know that this one is in the classification of a tragedy because we're told it's a tragedy. And that, of course, alerts us that there are going to be tragic events that are going to unfold here. All right, so we need to be alerted to that before we get started. The next thing that we're going to be looking at, and just to let you know, because of our new long-distance learning methods here, given our situation, there may be some differences in the text that I have up on the screen from the one that you have in your book. Okay, because there are many different editions that editors have gotten their hands onto when it comes to Shakespeare, especially a play of the magnitude of Hamlet. All right, so be prepared if you see certain differences. If it's important, I'll explain it. But for the most part, this should correspond quite well with the edition, the Signet edition that we're dealing with. Okay. So of course, after we look at the title, we look at the dramatis persona, the list of characters. And as we did with Merchant of Venice, and to some extent with Fences, we will often come back and look at this list, because when characters are going to be introduced, often we're not going to know who they are. And we're going to come back to the page, right, in our book. Some of my visuals here. In the book, and remind ourselves who's who. Right? We're going to know who Hamlet is and so on. But feel free. I still do it. Okay? So again, be prepared to do that. You have to take your time with Hamlet. And again, reminding you as well, the nature of how we have to navigate through this in terms of being attentive to the dialogue and how the dialogue is going to reveal so much of what is usually given to us from the narrator's perspective. Okay? That's why we have to go slowly. We're reading this. It is written to be performed, yes, but we are reading it as students of literature. Okay? We will look at some clips in the next few weeks, but you have to use your powers of imagination and understanding of the text in order to be able to envision what is transpiring, right down to where people are on the stage. Who they're talking to sometimes can become confusing. So you have to be very attentive to the dialogue, and also very attentive to, right, what is told to us at the beginning of scenes, when there's an exit, when someone exits, and so on. So you're always cognizant of who's on stage and what is transpiring in terms of who's communicating with who. Okay? So again, this is review, because we went through this in our previous two plays, and of course we've done Shakespeare before. So where do we start? Elsinore, a platform before the castle. We're in a castle setting. We see that who come in is Francisco and Bernardo, who are two sentinels, guards for the castle. That's all we know at this point. How it's actually designed and what the stage looks like when this is performed or when it's done into a movie, that's what directors do, and the film crews do, and the theater people do, but now we have to do it in our minds, okay? Because we're not watching this in the theater, we're reading it, okay? So again, I'm going to go through this in detail. Bear with me, again, to familiarize ourselves once again with the language and make sure that we understand how this foundation is laid for us. So they enter. Bernardo, who's there? Francisco, nay, answer me, stand, and unfold yourself. So again, with the language, unfold yourself, reveal yourself. Who are you? Okay, long live the king, probably a password of sorts to let them know that they are a part of the same army team, if you will. Bernardo, you come most carefully upon your hour, you're on time. 'Tis now struck 12, telling us what time it is. Get thee to bed, Francisco, right? Your watch is over, I am taking over the watch. Francisco says, for the relief, much thanks, 'tis bitter cold. Close, attentive reading. This is laying down the foundation for us, right? 'Tis bitter cold. It's telling us what the setting is like. It's midnight. It's cold, okay? We are in Denmark, okay? And I am sick at heart, okay? So, right, sick at heart is somewhat revealing. Something's wrong. And Bernardo's response is, well, have you had quiet guard? Like, what is it? Yeah, not a mouse stirring. So we're getting already an introduction of some of the mystery of what's going to transpire in this scene, right? I'm sick at heart. Why are you sick at heart? I don't know. There's nothing going on, but something is in the air. Well, good night. If you meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rivals of my watch bid them make haste, and then Horatio and Marcellus come in. We look over, right? Who are they? This is where we're going to be coming back here. Marcellus is another officer, as is Bernardo and Francisco, sentinels. Okay, who's Horatio? We see that he's different. Horatio is a friend to Hamlet. Okay, so he's not necessarily coming and armed as a guard on the watch. He's not categorized or classified as a soldier, a sentinel, or an officer. He's a friend of Hamlet's, okay? Who's there, friends to this ground, and liegeman to the Dane. The Dane in this case is the king, okay? Give you good night or farewell, really. Okay, I'm not gonna go word by word, though my inclination is to do so. What do we have here? We have a changing of the guard on the outposts of the castle, and we have two sentinels, and we have Horatio. Horatio is a vitally important character in this play. Okay, say what is Horatio there, right? Because he's not expected, because he's not part of the guard. Right? Horatio's response: a piece of him. He's talking about himself. A piece of me is here. What does that suggest? Can suggest many things at this point. We don't really know, but what we're getting is, yeah, I'm not all here. It's midnight. Maybe he's tired, but he's not fully there. There's something there missing, because it's just a piece of him. And Marcellus goes on saying to Bernardo, what, has this thing appeared again tonight? Okay, we know, if we've read ahead, right, the thing he's referring to is the ghost. But at this point, it's a thing. It's not revealed to us, and even the way that they're discussing it, even though they've seen it already, they don't know what to make of it. Has this thing appeared again tonight? And Bernardo says, I have seen nothing. And now we're going to learn more about why Horatio's there. Horatio says, 'tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him. Okay, so that's quite revealing. They have told Horatio that they have been seeing this thing. And Horatio's there because they've asked him to come because Horatio doesn't believe them. Okay? And will not let belief take hold of him, touching this dreaded sight twice seen by us. Therefore, I've entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night, that if again this apparition, all right, the thing now is an apparition, come, he may approve our eyes and speak to it. So what it's telling us is that Horatio, they've sought out Horatio for whatever reasons as someone to see what they have seen and to speak to it, giving us an inclination that Horatio is somehow is different than they are and somehow more in a position to talk to an apparition or a ghost. Okay, what does that suggest about Horatio? Well, we're going to find out. Horatio, just to make sure, let us all know that he is quite skeptical. Tush, tush, 'twill not appear. Okay, then sit down a while and let us once again assail your ears. Let us once again tell you what we saw. Because again, Horatio said, come on, I don't believe what you're telling me. Okay, it won't appear. Well, let us tell you again about what it was. Last night of all, when yon same star that's westward from the pole had made his course to illume that part of heaven where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beating one. Note here, and this is again introducing an element and a theme in the play that we want to take note of here, that it will be built upon, right? The stars, astrology. Now, we know a ghost is coming. So we have these elements of superstition, ghosts, the supernatural, astrology. Okay, something is in the air. Okay, and this is introducing this theme of astrology. Okay, peace, break thee off. Look where it comes again. Enter the ghost right away. All right, so this play brings us right into a very packed scene. We have a ghost that is now appearing in front of these men on the castle walls. In the same figure, like the king that's dead. Okay, again, we have to. It's going to be revealed to us what's going on, because we don't know anything at this point. The play just started. Okay, the ghost appears to be the ghost of the king that's dead. Okay, and here we find out more about Horatio. Thou art a scholar. Speak to it, Horatio. So a scholar, an educated man. Okay, this is why they've brought him here. But we're just soldiers. We don't know how to deal with this. But we sought you out. You're a scholar. You're well-read. You're educated, probably of higher rank in the social order. We brought you here to prove that what we saw is actually there and speak. They don't say, we don't speak to it. You speak to it. Looks it not like the king. Mark it, Horatio. And Horatio now, most like the king, it harrows me with fear and wonder. Well, no doubt he's seen a ghost. Of course, remember at the time, ghosts were more acceptable concepts than they are now. But he is impacted with fear and wonder. It would be spoke to. Question it, Horatio. Again, they've brought Horatio here. Horatio, you've got to figure this out for us. So Horatio speaks. What art thou that usurpest this time of night, together with that fair and warlike form in which the majesty of buried Denmark did sometimes march? By heaven, I charge thee, speak. So the majesty of buried Denmark, the king they're referring to is the king of Denmark, a previous king, obviously, who's now dead. Interesting note to observe here. What art thou that usurpest? Okay, that to usurp is to rebel against in a way, right? To take over something through unnatural means of sorts. All right, when you usurp the kingdom, that means it's a coup. You've taken over the kingdom. You've gone through a type of revolutionary act to upset the authority that is in place. It's important here because he's referring to it in this context. You are disrupting this time of night, right? This is not normal. You shouldn't be doing this. But of course, it's foreshadowing for us to a large extent. What's to come. And those of you who have read ahead, this is important to notice that this is being revealed to us at such an early stage, because the usurper of the kingdom, we know, is in fact the present king. And he who he usurped was from the dead king, who we're now seeing the ghost of. Okay? I charge thee, speak. The ghost does not speak. They're insisting. It's stalking away. Stay, speak, speak. I charge thee, speak. And the ghost exits. Very brief scene. Okay? But what do we make of it? And how do our characters who are still on the stage, what do they make of it? 'Tis God will not answer. How now, Horatio, you tremble and look pale. Is not this something more than fantasy? What think you on it? Okay, well, now what do you think? You were questioning us. Check that out. Now what do you say? And Horatio goes, before my God, I might not this believe without the sensible and true avouch of mine own eyes. Seeing is believing. It tells us a bit about Horatio. Okay, he is a skeptic. You tell me these things, I don't believe it. I need to see it. He's a pragmatist. Okay, and now he has seen it with his own eyes. And that's the only way he was going to believe. He wasn't going to take anyone's word for it. Okay, is he not like the king? And Horatio goes on and says, exactly such was the very armor that the king had on in the ambitious Norway combated when he was fighting Norway. Remember Denmark, Norway. Okay, Norway is the enemy here. This is alerting us to the fact that there was a confrontation between the king of Denmark and the king of Norway. And again, saying how he looked the same as he looked when he was fighting the Poles, who were on the ice. We can come back to this image here. It's one of the more written about the sledded poleaxe on the ice. But again, the main purpose at this point is that it's establishing for Horatio that not only, yes, I saw a ghost, but that ghost looked just like the dead king, wore the same armor, okay? Frowned he once, right here, frowned he once, had the same look on his face, which also tells us that Horatio clearly knew the previous king, okay? The Marcellus explains, we've seen him twice before at this same time. Horatio now is, remember, he's a scholar, all right? In what particular thought to work, I know not, but in the gross and scope of my opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. This is supernatural. It's not natural. Why is this happening? Why is this ghost of the dead king appearing? And Horatio reflects on that and comes and believes that this is alerting us that something is wrong in the state of Denmark. Okay, we're going to find out how much is wrong. Okay, but just the fact that this is an unnatural appearance is getting Horatio to start saying, okay, there's got to be, it's more than just some random ghost that looks like the king floating around. No, this is a message. Something is wrong, and this is a manifestation of what is wrong. And we need to find out what it is. Now, this next section, it's very dense and difficult to unpack. Okay, and I'm not going to get into it in too much detail, just for no other reason. I don't want you to get too bogged down on it, but it does tell us and anticipates for us much of the political issues that are part of this eruption to the state. Okay, so Marcellus, good. Now sit down and tell me, he that knows, why things are like they are here, because what he describes in this bit here is the implements of war, such daily cast of brazen cannon, does not divide the Sunday for the week. People are working 7 days a week. That's what we see here. Does not divide the Sunday for the week. The same stricken, most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen, cannon, and foreign mark for implements of war? What might be towards that this sweaty haste doth make the night join a laborer with the day? What he's describing is there seems to be preparations for war. Okay, they're on their watch, they're alert, they're building, there's the cannons involved, the implements of war are being dealt with. Okay, it's an interesting dynamic here, because I just saw a ghost. And while we did see that Horatio was quite taken aback, now there's a calmness, and they're going to have a conversation. And again, we have to remind ourselves, different era, ghosts perhaps not having the same connotations to the extent they do now. Not really sure. Okay, but these are the questions that Marcellus is answering. Who is it that can inform me? And Horatio says, well, that can I. Well, why can Horatio? Because he's a scholar. He's the educated man here. And he says, yes, I can explain why all these things are going on now, these war preparation things. At least the whisper goes on. The rumors are, okay, which is interesting because it suggests that he doesn't know firsthand, but what he hears, and we'll learn about this later, that he is visiting, right? So he has just learned what he's about to reveal is things he's learned since he's arrived here. Okay, we will see where he comes from as we proceed. Now, what is explained here? Our last king, whose image even now appeared to us, the dead king, was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, the enemy, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, dared to the combat. Okay, what's being explained here is that the king, whose ghost they just saw, got into a conflict with Fortinbras of Norway, and they had a battle whereby the king, the dead king, did slay this Fortinbras. And as a result of winning that battle, did the dead Fortinbras forfeited with his life all his lands which he stood seized to the conqueror. We don't know the details here, but what we're getting is that there was the conflict between Denmark, the king of Denmark, the king of Norway, Fortinbras. The king of Denmark won. Fortinbras was killed, and he had to give up land that now belongs to Denmark. Okay, there's a reason this is important, so bear with me. Was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been a vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the Argusine, his fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras, now this is where it gets a bit confusing. There's young Fortinbras, and then there's the king that was described up here, Fortinbras. Two different people. The young Fortinbras is the son. Okay, so the young Fortinbras, the son of the king who was slain, the king of Norway, who presumably now is king of Norway, because that's usually how these things work, hath in the skirts of Norway here and there shaped up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise that hath a stomach in it. Basically, what the young Fortinbras is setting out to do is to recover the land that Denmark took after the battle with his father, but to recover of us by strong hand through war and terms compulsory those foresaid lands so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of all our preparations. The source of this, our watch, and the chief head of this post haste and rummage in the land. So it's important because Fortinbras plays young Fortinbras plays a very important role in the play, and to a large extent as a mirror to Hamlet. Fortinbras is thinking it was unjust that the lands were taken. He wants to get the land back, okay? But he has other motivations as well, because he also wants to revenge the death of his father. And those of you who are familiar with Hamlet understand that that becomes obviously the central core, if you will, of this play, Hamlet's need to revenge his father's death and his struggle to do so. All right. The watch so like the king that was and is the question of these wars. So Horatio goes on, trouble. He makes a reference here. Okay, now what this one is here, and again, I'm going to go through it because it is difficult to fully understand, but it is important. He is reflecting on the state of Rome. What we're dealing with now is the disruption, right? There's something in the air there that we saw with the ghost arriving. And what he's referring to here is during Roman times, when the state of Rome, when it was its empire, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell, Julius Caesar, before the fall, okay, of Julius in Rome, the grave stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did speak and gibber in the Roman streets, as stars with trains of fire and dews of blood, disasters in the sun, and the moist star is the moon, upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands, was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse. What he's saying is, when Julius fell as emperor of Rome, before it happened, there was disruptions in nature, sheeted dead, okay, ghosts, stars, disasters in the sun and the moon. Remember, we have the reference to the astrology. Okay, there were signs in nature, nature expanding to the supernatural, with ghosts and the stars and eclipses of the sun that were foretelling of this calamity that was going to befall Rome. And the reason he's bringing it up is, remember what he said earlier in terms of this, this bode some strange eruption to our state. And he's comparing it to the eruptions to the state of Rome before Rome fell, or this manifestation of the Roman Empire. Okay? The ghost re-enters. Be soft, behold, lo, where it comes again. And now we got another chance here, is the attitude, right? Is the attitude. Horatio says, I'll cross it, though it'll blast me. Stay, illusion. If thou hast any sound or use of voice, speak to me. If there be any good thing to be done that may to thee do ease and grace to me, speak to me. He's appealing to the ghost. Are you in pain? Is there anything that I can do to ease your pain? Is there anything that you can do to inform me, give grace to me? Speak to me. What are you doing here? I've been speculating that you're trying to tell us that something's wrong. Tell us. If thou art privy to thy country's fate, the country being Denmark, he recognizes him as the ghost of the king of Denmark. If thou art privy to thy country's fate, our fate, which happily foreknowing may avoid. Can you tell us something? Is something going to happen, and are you here to inform us so that we can make sure it doesn't happen, so we can avoid it? Speak. The rooster crows at the break of dawn. Okay, it's important because this speaks to the understanding of the supernatural, the spiritual, the ghost world. Now, no, Marcellus says, shall I strike it with my partisan? It's like a big spear. Do if it will not stand. Right now, what do we do? It's not answering us. We need to know what it is, what it's trying to tell us, if anything. Now they're in their uncertainty of how to deal with this. What do we do? What do we do? Should I hit it? It's a ghost. And Horatio even said, do if it will not stand. Bernardo, 'tis here. Horatio, 'tis here. What we're getting, and this is again important to remind ourselves in terms of what theater is we get a sense here of a bit of chaos. 'Tis here. 'Tis here. The ghost is moving around. They're trying to get it. They're trying to strike it at this point. Okay, it's moving, but the rooster, the cock crows, which is a signal that the ghost has to leave at this point, and that'll be explained to us as we move on. Okay, but again, this is what I was talking about earlier, where you have to let your minds envision what is transpiring. We don't have a narrator to tell us. We don't even have stage directions here to tell us. We have to glean that. We have to extrapolate from "'tis here, 'tis here," and understand that, yeah, the ghost is moving around. They're chasing it. 'Tis gone. And now Marcellus reflects, we did it wrong being so majestical to offer in it the show of violence. Maybe we, he's regretting. We were trying to, it was the king. It's the ghost of the king. But they were in a panic because they saw it was moving, going away from them, and they want answers. And here we have Horatio explaining why he left. I have heard the cock that is the trumpet to the morn, the rooster crows at the break of dawn, doth with his lofty and shrill sounding throat awake the god of day. And at his warning, whether in sea or fire or earth or air, the elements here, okay, we're going to talk about that later on, sea, fire, earth, and air. The extravagant and erring spirit hies to his confines. When the day begins, when the sun is rising, okay, the spirit world, the ghost world, must go to wherever it is they rest, wherever they are when they're not floating around in this situation. It's interesting here what Marcellus, who riffs off this a bit, okay, and this again is alerting us to another element in the play that we want to be attentive to. Some say that ever against the seasons come wherein our Savior's birth is celebrated. The bird of dawning, the rooster, singeth all night long. And then, they say, no spirit dare stir abroad, the nights are wholesome, then no planet strike, no fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm, so hallowed and gracious is the time. So what he's saying is that he's heard that during when our Savior's birth, the time of Christ's birth, during high holidays, very much in the Catholic vein, okay, when it is celebrated, the rooster is crowing all night long, which keeps all the evil spirits away. Now, this is important. It's riffing off of why this ghost just left, but it's important because it introduces this theme, this religious theme, which will come into play as much as it does in any Shakespeare play. Okay, what is allowed under the dogma of religious doctrine. Okay, so again, we're getting this information at the beginning to give us a foundation from which we can build. Okay. Horatio, so I have heard, and he's relating this story about when it's the Savior's birth and the rooster's crowing all night long. And Horatio, remember the scholar, says, so have I heard, and do in part, only in part believe it. The skeptic. Okay, and this is again demonstrating another theme that we have to be attentive to, is the unknown, the uncertainty of things. And how does one make decisions if one isn't certain? Okay, and we're going to see this becomes a major theme, in particular in relation to Hamlet. Okay, how am I supposed to act? What am I supposed to do? And and if I hesitate, what does that suggest? What could that lead to? Indecision. Let's see, this will unfold as we go through it. Let us impart what we have seen tonight unto young Hamlet. For upon my life, this spirit, dumb to us, won't speak to us, will speak to him. Remember, we know that Horatio is Hamlet's friend. Okay, and we should be gleaning at this part as well that the dead king, who was referred to earlier, I don't know if I covered that well, as Hamlet, okay, as young Fortinbras is the son of the Fortinbras that was killed by the king of Denmark. Hamlet, our Hamlet, is the young Hamlet. Dumb to us will speak to him. Do you consent? We shall acquaint him with it as needful in our loves, fitting our duty. And Marcella says, let's do it. I pray I this morning know where we shall find him most conveniently. Okay. I'm debating, to be honest with you, whether to go into the next scene because it's such an important one. I think what we're going to do, because I don't want to overwhelm at this point. So I think we're going to stop here. Okay. And we will talk, and again, a lot will depend on how much you have read. Tomorrow in the class, I'll go back over this opening scene with you. Again, I'm not sure many of you will have a chance to watch this video. I will be recording our class tomorrow, but I've had problems with the recordings of the class, and sometimes I can't save it. So I will be doing these pre-recorded videos throughout our time spent with Hamlet. But I think I'll leave this here because the next scene is lengthy and so vitally important. And what I'll do in the next video is cover that scene and then see if I can move further on in Act 1. We have time. And again, I know you've all been working on your midterm, so I don't know how much time you've had to be able to start reading Hamlet. And I'm sure some of you have read Hamlet and are familiar with it. So if you have a chance to look at this tonight, great. If not, we will talk about these same things in class tomorrow and move into the next scene tomorrow. I'd like to talk about that in the class. I'll try to record it, but I'll do a pre-recorded one on that if I can't capture what we do in class tomorrow. Hope that's all making sense. So on that note, everyone be safe. You have till midnight tomorrow to hand in your midterm. I've been getting a number of emails. People are asking, well, is it midnight tonight, midnight tomorrow? Midnight on the day it's due. So 11:59 tomorrow night. You submit it through the Omnibox and Leia, and do try to start on Hamlet if you haven't already, if you have a chance tonight or tomorrow morning, and we'll pick it up from there. Everyone stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow during our class time.